Omar Amin is a client, a friend, and an ultra successful entrepreneur. He was born in Afghanistan and is a prime example of the rags to riches American dream. His car collection alone is worth more than the average American home, and he's hoping his next business venture will gross over $100 million per year. His company, OC Flight Lessons, is based out of Orange County and is one of the premier flight schools in California. We talk about his career journey from airline pilot to donut shop owner to now having his hands in multiple business ventures. I hope you enjoy this episode of the Fighting in Finance podcast with Omar Amin. So, Omar, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it, my man. It's been quite a while since I've seen you. For those who may not be familiar with you, your story, spend maybe a minute and just tell the people what you do, your business, and anything else that you think would be pertinent.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me on. So 43 years old, live in Southern California, former airline captain, was an airline pilot for about 10 years. I currently own and operate kind of numerous businesses. My main bread and butter that really got me started into what I'm doing right now is I own a flight school. So that's kind of how things kind of started, but it's tough. I think more accurately, they say if you throw darts at a board, you throw 10 darts at a board, one's going to stick, right?
Mhm.
So I've been throwing darts up for a long time and I finally got one that stuck. So yeah, that's my main bread and butter right now.
I love it. So what I've noticed in the journey of being an entrepreneur is there's always one or two kind of key or pivotal decisions. For me, it was kind of when I went on my own and started my own shop, leaving the big bank names, the name behind the wall, as opposed to kind of representing myself. I think that was one of the decisions that led to my, call it what you want, my journey. What was one or two of the major decisions that you took that you think, looking back, may have led to your success?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a lot of with me, it was just I was right place at the right time. And I look back and my upbringing was kind of mixed bag. It was I had a lot of influence from an entrepreneurial aspect, like my older cousin who's kind of a brother figure to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an only child, so he would take me around. He worked for one of the wealthiest entrepreneurs in Afghanistan, which is where I was born. And my uncle, who was like my father figure, was a pilot in Dubai and was one of the first pilots for Emirates Airlines. So his son, who's my cousin, would drive me around. He worked for this rich entrepreneur. He would drive me around with him. We would go to like the Dubai Free Trade Zone in 1990, 1991, and I was a 10-year-old kid, 11-year-old kid observing firsthand how trade gets done on the spot,
Mm-hmm.
free trade. I mean, wholesale import export business. And I didn't know at the time. I wasn't planning on doing this. I was planning on becoming a pilot like my uncle. I looked up to him. And so I had no plans to own a business. I was gonna be a pilot. And so along the way, this type of stuff kept happening. When I was um 14, I took auto shop in high school in Irvine, where I grew up. And when I was 16, my uncle retired as an airline pilot and opened an auto repair business as a car business. And I went to work in it weekends. One day they called me and they're like, I think I was 18 at the time. I had graduated high school. They called me and they go, hey, they rushed him to USC Medical Center. You're now the manager of the auto repair business at
Oh,
18. Yeah. And I
wow.
thought they thought for sure the business was going to go under. And I decided to open a seventh day of the week on Sunday. We were doing, I think, about 20, 25 grand a week in sales. I took over on Sundays and I added another $5,000 a week in sales. And they were just the look on their face was shock. So I did that, and then the pilot side of me took over. Was like, I really want to be a pilot, and so I went and did the pilot thing. I was good at it. I really liked it. I paid attention to detail, and I got wrapped up in it because It was my passion, and I didn't see myself doing anything else. So I kind of went back into working for a company, but it was a hybrid. You're not doing a 9 to 5 thing. You're a pilot, so you just kind of show up when you're supposed to. You never see your boss. They hand you the keys to a $50 million airplane. You're in charge. Like, here you go. You go fly this thing around the country for 4 days with a bunch of passengers, and then you go home, and that's it. And there's a lot of freedom attached to it. So I never felt like I was working,
Mm-hmm.
even though it was an employee job, highly compensated employee.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2013, I was transitioning. I had gone to Portland, and I saw a donut shop on a layover. It was called Voodoo Donuts, and I saw this line wrapped around the block, and I thought to myself, "Oh my God, I need to open one of those in Southern California, and no one has one."
Mm-hmm.
So I went and opened a donut shop, not knowing a thing about the donut business. I mean, like, if you could think of like the dumbest thing you could do, which was like, hey man, I'm gonna spend like $70,000 and open a donut business, even though I know nothing about it. That's what I did. And dude, I mean, I did some crazy things. I've always had this thing where I stop at nothing to succeed. I don't let anything stop me. I don't let anything hold me back. If I don't know an answer, I go find out what it is. And so I would go around the area to the donut shop owners and try to, get help on how to do stuff. They'd be like, "Get out of here, dude. You're
Yeah.
you're you're a competition." So I emailed the guy. I found a guy on YouTube, and I emailed this guy back in 2010 or 11, and I go, "Hey, none of the donut shop owners want to help me around here. I just want to know this. I'm not your competitor. I'm an airline pilot. Will you help me?" He goes, "Yeah, man, come be here on Thursday." Wednesday night, or what was it? Thursday, I caught a flight out of John Wayne. I landed in Minneapolis. I was at the guy's donut shop at 10 p.m.
Wow.
I stayed up all night watching him make donuts. At like 4 p.m., I'm in the lobby with my head on the table, just dying, going to sleep. And I ran back to the airport because I was an airline pilot. So I could just walk up to any airplane and say, "Here's my badge, let me on the plane." At 7 a.m., I was on a flight back to Orange County.
Wow.
So, I learned little things like that, and I opened a donut shop, and I broke even. I didn't make any money. It was the wrong location. If I would have opened like in downtown LA or like San Diego or something like a really good spot, I would have done amazing. I would have been a
Mm-hmm.
multimillionaire because
Mm-hmm.
I got so much publicity from it. I really have always had this knack for marketing. I don't know why. The marketing was done so well that it just donut shops boomed in Southern California in terms of the fancy donuts and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Back in the 2011
I rem
2012 era.
Yeah.
But I ultimately failed at the business because I was underfunded. I lacked any kind of business experience. I was still flying. I was trying to keep my flying job because that was important to me. I wasn't ready to let that go. And I didn't really spend a lot of money on R&D, like building out really good, authentic recipes. I went with stuff that was like popular, but were one hit wonders and nobody would really come back. So seeing the writing on the wall, I got hired at another airline. It was the place I was at was kind of considered a stepping stone.
Okay.
And usually pilots moved on after two or 3 years. Well, I got hired right after 9/11.
Mm.
So the industry was completely destroyed. There was no pilot jobs. People were working for peanuts.
Mm-hmm.
So I got stuck there for 10 years, and it was a great place to be because I was 24, 25 years old, an airline captain. I was young, handsome, and having the time of my life.
Right.
So when I got in 2012, I got hired at my kind of my destination airline with bigger pay than a major airline. I go to this place, and my donut shops, I got two now, they're falling apart because the baker's not showing up, he's stealing money, employees are showing up. Dude, I remember I'm in Florida in training for an Airbus, and somebody calls me and they're like, "No one's at your donut shop." I go, "What are you talking about? I've got an employee there." "No, no one's there." I look through the camera. I call my employee, the dude's picking up the phone, and you could just, that guy was high on crack or heroin or something. High school kid, dude. It
Yeah.
wasn't marijuana, it was way worse. The
Uh-huh.
guy was just looped out of his mind. And I look through the camera and he just walks out the door.
Oh my
My
gosh.
donut shop is completely open. No one's inside. Lights are on. AC's going. And I'm in Florida.
Oh my God.
So, um, nevertheless, it was a time where my aunt came down with stage 4 cancer. She was like a mom to me. I wasn't in the right place. I resigned from my airline job because I wasn't, my mindset wasn't there. I left my airline. And I left all that seniority behind, and I came back to Southern California. I closed my donut shops. I sold one and I broke even on it, and I closed another one, and I had scared the landlord into thinking I was broke so he wouldn't come after me. I was like,
Mhm.
you could keep the equipment and the deposit, but if you want to come after me, go ahead. I don't got
Yeah.
no money.
Yeah.
I was lucky they left me alone. They didn't want to come after me.
Hmm.
So I skirted out of that really well. And then I took a year off because up to that point I had worked my buns off since the age of 14. I'd never not had a job. Sometimes I had two jobs. And I was like, you know what? I'm burned out, man. I'm just going to take a year off. I had built up some savings and I took a year off. Had the most relaxing year of my life. But in 2014, I'll never forget this. I was thinking of going back to the airline, but it's not like you can just reapply and go back in. You kind of have to start at the bottom. And I didn't want to do that because it was a hell of a lot of work.
Hmm.
So I walk into school's first bank where I bank at. I had deposited, a bunch of money in there when I left the airline as my savings. And it was weird. The girl that was the teller that I was withdrawing money from, it was the same girl that had been the teller when I deposited the money a year prior.
Hmm.
I think I had deposited like 100 grand, and now I was withdrawing money, and I think I was down to like my last $8,000.
Oh wow.
And she turned to me and she goes, "Oh, not as much money in your account as there used to be." And it hit me like a freight train. I mean, I was shocked that she said that to me. I was kind of
Hmm.
like taken back. I wasn't expecting it. I was embarrassed. I was like,
Hmm.
wow, I worked hard my whole life. This girl just, shaming me.
Yeah.
And in all these years, I'll never forget it. It was the best thing that ever happened to me because that lit a fire under me that I used to have that I kind of lost. And so I went and just basically started back from scratch again. And I hustled my way back up to the top. I started flight instructing. That's kind of what rolled me into this business. Um, so that's how I got into this business. Was I almost lost all my savings and went broke because I was taking my time and relaxing, and my back was to the wall. It was either, hey,
Hmm.
dude, you're going to be 33 and broke, and I didn't want to be one of those guys.
Yeah.
We've all had that friend.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to be that guy, and that's what kind of got everything started.
So you're down to your last 8 grand. You're 33 years old. What prompted a flight school? I mean, obviously you have the background in flying, but
Yeah,
how did you even know? I mean, was it similar to the donut shop where you're just like, "F this, I'm gonna start a new business"? Like, what prompted that decision?
dude, totally had no plans to open a flight school. So when when she told me that, when she was like, "Hey, you're broke basically,"
Yeah.
I went begging for jobs. I went to my old airline and they re-interviewed me, and it was the weirdest thing ever, dude. I left on good terms, and I thought, hey, I know the vice president of the company. I'll walk in there in the interview and they're treating me like I'm garbage. Like they treated
Mm,
me like really bad. It was really bad treatment. Like they were accusing me of lying. It was weird, dude. I was like totally shocked. Like, why the heck are they treating me this way? I didn't get the job, and I would have had to start from the beginning. I walked out, and I was just like, "Huh? What just happened?"
right.
I was like the poster boy of this airline, and I just randomly, I didn't get the job. Um, I'll come back to that later. It's hindsight. I went back home and I went to my old flight school that I used to teach at when I was like 19, 20 years old. And the owner was still there. And I go, "Hey man," I go, "Dude, are you hiring? Because I need to work again." And I told him the story. I go, "Yeah, I'm not working right now." He goes, "No." He goes, "We're good. We're pretty staffed up." I was like, "Okay." Didn't want to tell him too much, right? I was kind of like prideful.
Sure.
Couple months goes by, still nothing, and it's getting worse. Like I'm coming down even lower.
Yeah.
And I walk in again to his office, and I mean, he's a cool guy. I was just kind of the relationship where I could just walk in and shoot the breeze with him. He's like, "Hey, man, what's new?" I'm like, "Nothing, dude." I'm like, "I'm just getting desperate. I can't find anything. I'm down to like almost nothing in my account." And I didn't go in there trying to guilt him into giving me a job. I'm close to the guy. I've been friends with him for like at this point, 20 years. He goes, "Oh yeah, you can teach here." And I was
Mhm.
kind of like, "Oh, okay." I think he didn't realize how dire the situation
Mm,
was. And I think that kind of tugged on his heart and stuff. So he's like, "Yeah, dude, you could teach here, of course, come on in." So I started teaching there, and long story long, after like a couple months, word had spread throughout the airport that there's this highly experienced former airline captain that's teaching. And of course, when people want to learn, they want to learn from the most experienced guy.
sure.
Most of the other people teaching were younger kids. I mean, I wasn't that old anyways at
Mhm.
33, 34 by this point. And so my schedule got really full really quick, and I was setting my own rate. So all of a sudden, I think I was making like $500 a day instructing cash. I was like, "Oh,
Mhm.
good. I'm
Yeah.
safe."
Mhm.
And my plan was to, build my savings back up, polish off my resume, and get my foot back in the door at some airline because I mean, you can't be a flight instructor. It's not a career gig. You don't make a lot of money. It's like a stepping stone. So
Mhm.
my plan was to go back to the airlines and work my way back in. And a year goes by, and I'm comfortable. I think I'm making about $10,000 a month. So I'm good. I'm
Yeah.
paying the bills. I'm not hungry, and
Mhm.
I'm not worried. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, well, I've got all this, people after me, and I've got a waiting list and all this. I go, what if I bought a plane and I put an instructor in it and I managed it that way? I did the numbers, and I'm like, man, I'd be grossing about $20,000 a month. And then I'm like, I'll probably give the other guy, by the time I pay him his salary and by the time I pay for parking and maintenance and insurance, I'm left with about $8,000 a month. And I go, well, yeah, if I don't have to do any work
Yeah.
and all I lose is 2,000 a month, I'll do it, because
Yeah.
I'll either do one of two things. I'll either work on something else and make more money doing that, or I'll just work on expanding the business.
Mhm.
And so I went through a lot of, growing pains. Like, I got a guy in here, dude. I couldn't find anybody to flight instruct for me. It
Mhm.
was slim pickings back then. There was no pilots. And so I found a kid in Malaysia. I kid you not. The kid had gone to Florida, got his flight ratings, and he was on a student visa, and he went back to Malaysia, and he was fully certified here in America. He just didn't have, his green card. So I ended up bringing him in. We got him a work visa. We brought him in, and I put this kid to work, and dude, he was solid. Like, this kid
Nice.
was just Mr. Reliable. I was like, great. We went through some ups and downs.
Mhm.
The airplane I had bought, I thought I was getting a deal on this airplane because the owner that I bought it from, I had known since I was 17. Wasn't the case.
Oh man.
Bought the plane for 17,000, and I had to put in $29,000 worth of maintenance in the first year.
Oh
It
my
was
God.
bad, man. I
Yeah.
got duped. I got screwed. So I broke even. I learned a hell of a lot of information. I mean, that's
Mhm.
how you learn.
Yeah.
If you want to get good at your business, go make all the mistakes you can, not on purpose,
Right.
but like, you go make mistakes because you're learning what not to do. There's nothing like being wrong and something costing you money that makes you learn quickly.
I agree. Absolutely.
So I sold the airplane. I had it shipped out to Philippines. Somebody in the Philippines bought the airplane, and I bought another airplane. That one didn't work out. It was the wrong airplane, and then I sold that. I had someone partner with me on it, and I sold it, and I was without an airplane again for like 6 months,
Oh
and I
man.
was renting a plane. Dude, it was touch and go for about 2 years.
Mhm.
And then what finally did it was I had saved up like every penny I could and I just hunkered down. I took all the luxuries that I had amassed on myself. Like I was making 12, 13,000 a month, but I ended up getting to this rat race trap where I was spending like mostly everything I was making, buying this car and this apartment and this and that. And I was like, you know what? I just sat down. I was like, if I want to get to where I want to be, if I want to break $1 million in sales, because I think at the time I was doing like, I want to say $180,000 in sales. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
if I want to get to 1 million, then I'm gonna ditch um my I'm gonna downsize my place I'm living. I'm gonna downsize my car. I moved into a nice place, into a 500 square foot apartment, and got my rent down to like 1,600 a month.
Mm-hmm.
I ditched the expensive car and I put myself in a Honda CRV for like
Mm-hmm.
$200 a month, like an
Mm-hmm.
old used one. I even ditched my girlfriend. Sad to say, I know, judge me, but girls cost money, dude.
Yeah.
Um, I'm my mom taught me, it doesn't matter how much money you take, if you're with your girlfriend or your wife or something, you take care of her. She's your
Yeah.
responsibility. Girlfriends were expensive. If we were going out, I was paying because I was opening doors. That's just the guy that I was raised to be. So I sat her down and I was truthful to her and I said, hey, listen, I want to be here and I can't do it unless I just basically isolate myself and do this. And she understood, and that was that. That was the end of that. And I moved on.
Mm-hmm.
Within a year of taking all these drastic measures, I went from like $180,000 in sales to $330,000 in sales in
Wow.
1 year.
Mm-hmm.
And then a year after that, I went to 600 grand a year in sales. So I doubled my sales.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I ran into, let me back up. Before I went to 600 in sales, I ran into a key guy. The thing that I've been lucky at with this business is aviation attracts money,
Mm.
and money from all different sectors, from tech, from marketing,
Mm-hmm.
from, you name it. I get lawyers, I get doctors, I get entrepreneurs, I get all kinds of people. And the thing is, these people are constantly bombarded every day with people trying to get into their, call them and say, I want you to give me money in some way, shape, or form. And so they have this guard up, like, who are you? What are you trying to sell me? Stay away. I don't want to talk to you. I've got important stuff to do. But here I am owning a flight school. And now I've got these people coming to me asking
Yeah.
me for help.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget it. Sunday, I was in that shitty little apartment, 500 square feet. I like to take my Sunday off, that 1 day a week, and then hustle the rest of the week. It's like 12 p.m. and I get a phone call and I'm like, I don't want to answer this because it's someone trying to get me to do something. I don't want to do it. It's my day off. Something just told me pick up the phone. So I pick it up. I'm like, hello. And this guy's like, yeah, hey, is this a flight school? And I go, yeah, what's up? And I was really short with him because I just don't
Yeah.
want to talk to him.
Sure.
And he goes, well, yeah, I'm interested in getting my license. And I go, okay, yeah. What do you need? I was like, get to the point.
Yeah. It's a
And
standard.
yeah, he's like, yeah, I'm just going around to these other schools and everyone's telling me different answers. And he seemed pissed off and upset that he couldn't get what he was looking for. And I just got so tired of him being on the phone quickly because I wanted to get off the phone and go back to my like sleeping. I was like answering him in the most direct, quickest way possible,
Mm.
like to the point, like, hey, I want to get off. The weird thing is this guy liked it so much that the guy's like, why doesn't anybody else tell me what you're telling me? And I was like, because they're all idiots. And I told him that on the phone. I just didn't care. I just
Yeah.
didn't care. I was like, because they're all morons. And he's like, I'm like, they all pretending like they know what they're doing, but they're not. I was like, I don't care. I'm just gonna tell you the answer straight up. Dude, he goes, all right, I'm gonna be at your office tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. And I go, I'm like, all right. Because at this point I just another guy, right?
Yeah.
He shows up, I meet the guy, and he's an entrepreneur. I don't know to what scale, but I
Mm-hmm.
know he's a very sharp guy. He's an
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneur and he's a really, really polite person. He's not, he's like the kind of guy like, hey, don't mistake my kindness for weakness,
Mm.
that type of vibe. So I took him flying a couple times, and then I put him with one of my instructors because I was getting too busy.
Yeah.
And so he comes up to me one day and he goes, "Hey dude, why don't you expand and do this and do that?" And I go, "You need cash, and you can't get loans. The banks wouldn't give me loans. That was the thing. I was trying to get loans to get more planes. They wouldn't give me loans.
But even if you were showing 2 consecutive years of positive cash flow and you said 300, 600, were you still having issues getting loans?
Dude, go try to finance an airplane. It's like the most frustrating process you've ever seen in your life. So they're like, show us 2 years tax returns, show us bank statements, right? So I wait for 2 years to show them what they want to see, and I go show it to them. Finally, after 2 years, they go, "Oh, so here's the thing. If your business is aviation related and your income is aviation related, we can't finance you."
Ay, ay, ay.
"What are you talking about?" He goes, "Okay, well, the thing is, if you're relying on aviation as your income to pay the payments on this and your business goes under, then we won't get paid. So if you were if you were an insurance company, we'd finance you based off this income."
Mm.
And so, I couldn't get financing. So this guy, this entrepreneur, and I'm telling him this stuff, and he goes, "Dude, come to my house on Sunday. It's like Friday, Saturday." He's like, "Just come to my house." I'm like, "Okay, what do I got to lose?" He gives me the address to his house. He lives in Newport, and I go to his house. I walk in, and dude, it's one of those like, crazy homes.
Hmm.
Like it's like you're walking around, your mouth's just open like
Yeah.
pieces. Takes me into his office, and there's this picture on the wall, and it's like it's a picture, it's a plaque. There's a picture of him. It's a book that he wrote, and it says top marketing salesperson of the year, like United States of America, like in the
Wow.
entire country.
Wow.
And he had done this like years earlier. Um, and I looked at it, and I looked at him, and I go, "Hey, I'm gonna change his name." I was like, "Hey, John, am I like in like some place that I have no idea that I'm at? Like you're like some guru, like top sales guy. Am I in front of like a billionaire and I don't even know it?" He started laughing and gave me that look like, "Yeah, you are." But he was so polite and courteous that he had so much class
Mm.
that he didn't say yes. He's like, "Have a seat. I want to talk to you."
Mm.
And I was like, "Okay." I sat down. He goes, "Since I've met you, you know more about this than all your competitors. You're better at it than all of them. Yada yada." He's like, "You do better than all of them in everything." He's like, "But they got you beat on marketing." And he goes, "What do you do for marketing?" And I go, "Well, I've got the website, and people just fill out their info, and then they send me the email, and then I don't really call them." He's like, "What?" And I go, "I don't really call them." He's like, "Why not?" I'm like, "I don't like to bother people because I don't like to get sales calls." I didn't know anything about sales. I was a
Yeah.
pilot. What the hell do I
Yeah.
know about sales?
Right.
And he slaps his forehead. He goes, "Dude, they're giving you their phone number to call them." And I was
Yeah.
like, I called a couple once or twice, and they just hang up the phone, or they didn't pick up. So I was like, "What's the point? If they want this, they'll call me." He goes, "No."
No. Yeah.
He goes, "No, dude, that's not how it works." He's like,
Yeah.
he starts laughing, and he goes, all right." He's like, "I will help you grow your sales, and you're gonna reach." I think at the time I remember this exactly. I was doing $27,000 a month in sales. And it was that year I just hit like
Hmm.
330,000. He goes, "I will get you to $1 million a year in sales, but you have to follow what I say. And if I ever get the hint that you're not following what I say, I'm just never going to help you again." Because he goes, "I charge people a lot of money to do this, and I'm doing it for free for you because," he goes, because when we flew together, and this is the connection you make with these guys that others don't. When you fly together, you build a bond. It's like you're not trying to get anything out of this guy, and most of the time people are trying to get something out of these people. They're very high net worth people, and so you build a very good close bond, and he trusts you. And it's as if somebody got rich and famous, like LeBron James or something, and his friends that he made when he was a little kid are still his
Mm.
friends because he's
Right.
the one that he trusts them from the beginning. You build that trust.
Right.
So he goes, dude, I charge around 50 grand per speaking engagement. And he goes, I stopped him and I go, hey, John, I go, I'm just curious, man. Please don't take this the wrong way, but why are you helping me? Because I
Mm-hmm.
was like, does this guy want something from me? He's like, what?
Sure.
He's like, I see myself in you. And I feel like I'm helping myself by helping you and I'm giving
Mm-hmm.
back. It makes me feel better. And he goes, because we had talked in the airplane and I told him I came from a very humble background. I was born in Afghanistan. My mom and dad split up when I was very young. My mom came here with her family. My dad was supposed to come over and he ended up never coming, and he got back together with his original wife and stayed in Afghanistan with her. And me and my mom were alone here in the US. We moved in with her sister, and her sister's husband was the pilot, my uncle.
Ah.
And so he was like a father figure to me. We lived in we converted their garage into a bedroom, and my mom and I lived in that garage until I was 9 years old.
Mm.
I didn't know it was a garage. I was a kid, dude. You don't
Mm-hmm.
know anything going
Yeah.
on. So we lived there, and I don't know. This kind of story just came up because I think John had told me that he came from very humble background. He's like, I grew up in Riverside on welfare and food stamps. I'm like, yeah, so did I, dude. I was like, I remember going to, the supermarket down the street with my mom in like 1991 or 1990. She'd pull out food stamps. Back then it was a piece of paper. It's not like
Mm-hmm.
this credit card you have now. And I would run and hide by the exit of the Ralphs because I was so embarrassed that we were using these food stamps
Mm.
that I wouldn't want to be seen by anybody.
Wow.
And I felt so bad for my mom. That woman, she went through a lot of, stuff trying to raise a son in America with no husband, didn't speak the language, no education on her own. So I think I had such a close bond with Kelly with regards to how we grew up very similarly that he realized, like, okay, this guy's trying to make it and I want to help this guy genuinely. And he's like, let's see what happens. And he's like, if you screw around once, you're out, dude, because I don't have
Right.
time to be screwing around. So he sat me down and he goes, every phone call you get, you better call them back within 30 minutes. Like when they email you, you call them back in 30 minutes and you say, hey, this is Omar from so and so. I'm responding to your inquiry. How can I help you? How can I
Mm-hmm.
assist you today? How can I be of assistance? And you answer every question they have and give them value, and they will come to you.
Mm-hmm.
But the key is you answer every single question. And he goes, here's what your competitors, he showed me a sales sheet. And he goes, here's what your competitors have. He goes, what do you have? I go, nothing. He goes, exactly. He goes, you got a week, put a sales sheet together. I went home and I taught myself some minor Photoshop things. I put it all
Mm-hmm.
together. I had it back to him in 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And he called me and he's like, dude, I've never seen anybody respond that quickly. He's like, all right, good. He's like, every single person that inquires on your website, you send them this packet right here and you call them and you email them, every single one. He goes, I don't care if they all hang up on your face. He's like, give this to me for 90 days. That's what I want from you for 90 days. I go, okay. And I kid you not, Parsa, 90 days later, I'll show you proof if you ever want to see it. In 90 days, my sales went from $27,000 a month to $111,000 a month. I mean,
Wow.
talk about skyrocketing, dude. That was big money to me back then. It's big money to me right now. I
Yeah.
mean, I've moved on since then,
Right.
right? But dude, I was like in disbelief at what I had been sitting on the whole time,
Yeah.
and I didn't know.
That's wild to me. So there's two components within that. There's obviously sales, you following up, and then the marketing aspect, which is kind of that sales sheet. But outside of those kind of two uh, th- carrots that he provided you, were there other things that he added value for your sales and marketing, or was that really just the trigger?
He told me that he goes, dude, I've already assessed you. And he goes, this is why I brought you in here, because he goes, if I felt like you didn't have the tools necessary to execute on what I want to tell you, he goes, I wouldn't even waste my time and bring you in here.
Mm,
So he's like, you have a genuineness to you. This is what he told me. He goes, you're honest. He's like, I can tell you're honest. And he's like, you have a trusting nature in you. He goes, so I know that in sales, if you come off as like, salesy and you're trying to sell people and stuff, then they're not going to gain their trust. Is all a waste of time. So other than, him telling me you've already got that aspect of it, which some people have it and some people don't, and some people have to work at it. He goes, just execute on this, be, provide good value to people, provide them a service, and they will come. And that's what happened, man. And then, dude, it's been a wild ride, It's been that, and I've taken what I've learned from marketing
Mm-hmm.
and I've applied it to other businesses that I've started. And I was like, once you figure out this recipe to marketing and how it works and it's not just phone calls and emails, there's more to it. You learn, you get better and better and better at your craft. Then you look at other businesses and you're like, oh, dude, I could apply this to this. And within 90 days, I could have a business easily grossing $500,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to different levels of that. And then you're just like, all right, I'm not touching this unless I'm having at least $1 million a year come in. And it's not really about ego and saying, oh, I'm big time now and I need to make $1 million a year. It's that you've learned this skill set that's so valuable and rare that your time is precious. And so you want to apply your time to the most return on investment. And that's how I look at it now. It's like, I could do things that were very hard to me and foreign to me at one time very easily now.
Mm-hmm.
And now I have a team around me.
Mm-hmm.
I've got project managers and I've got editors that work for me for my social media projects.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a staff of full-time people. And when I hire them, I don't really look for too much heavy experience in the field. I look for work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
I look for like if they don't have work ethic, I won't hire them no matter what their resume is because they're just going to sit there and not work for 80% of the time. They're going to work 20% of the time and they're going to bill you 100% of their salary.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want hardworking people. And I always reward those people that work with me. I go, hey, listen, dude, this is what you're going to make. You're going to get paid, slightly above average. But if what you're gonna the real value to what I'm giving you is the skill set that you won't find anywhere else that I
Mm-hmm.
bring to you. And if you're a 9 to 5er and you don't ever want to be anything but 9 to 5, which by the way, there's nothing wrong with being a 9 to 5er. Entrepreneurship is not for everybody. There's people that don't want the panic and risk and anxiety and not knowing where their next paychecks. And that's the beautiful thing about our country is everyone has the right to their pursuit of happiness, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's definition of that happiness is different.
Mm-hmm.
So I tell these employees I want to bring them on, I go, I scope them out and I go, what do you want? What do you want to do? What are your interests? I go, okay. I'm like, I'll give you this pay so you can pay your bills and eat and do what you want. I'll help you with this, which is easy for me. I could do like the back of my hand. And this is where you're going to move on to bigger and better things. Because let's be real, you know, people are not going to stick around your company forever. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's a reality that you need to accept. So if you've got somebody for an average of 2, 3 years or something like that. Like if someone's at a Fortune 500 company with amazing benefits and amazing pay, okay, maybe they're going to stick around for long term.
Sure.
But a small business like mine, they're not going to stick around for more than a couple of years until they find their next stepping stone, and that's a reality I accepted. So I go, listen, here's your pay. You get paid decent. It's not average. It's above average. But this is what you're going to leave with. You're going to
Mm-hmm.
leave with these skills, and the skills that I teach you, you'll be able to go out on your own, open your own business, and make a killing doing really well for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's worked well for me. It's
I
worked really
love
well
that.
for me.
I love that. I have a few colleagues, I'll call them, that are going from the 9 to 5 into entrepreneurship, and they ask me for my opinion. And I don't know if I should be saying this on this podcast, but it is what it is. I think it's important that they hear it one way or another. Um, you're right. Entrepreneurship does take a certain type of person, not only being able to deal with risk and the unknown, but better than most all the stresses that come along with running a business than having employees. I remember our last conversation, you said you were dealing with an employee situation. I just lost an employee of 5 years without a 2 week notice. These things come up, right? There's always something. And it takes a certain type of personality to get hit, get back up and truck forward and to be resilient. And a lot of people just don't have that, hence why they may not be good business owners. And I second what you say, that there's nothing wrong with a 9 to 5. I think a lot of people can flourish and have beautiful lives in 9 to 5s. The certain things that I am reluctant to give advice on is from someone I know who's intelligent but who may lack the thick skinness, the stubbornness required to be an entrepreneur, because inevitably something's going to go wrong, right? Whether your inventory is missing, your staff doesn't show up, you've got an empty donut shop, you're trying, something's going to happen.
I had a person, sorry to interrupt you, steal from me
It
twice.
happens.
Not
It
the same
happens.
person, twice. I caught him stealing customers away.
Yeah. So I'm all about the mindset of eat what you kill. I don't want that comfort, but I know someone, let's say like my brother. My brother, far more intelligent than I am, but just may not have the other attributes that I have to be an entrepreneur. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I think anyone who's watching this, if you want to walk away with one piece of advice, if you're thinking of starting a business, just be honest with yourself. Do you have these characteristics? Are you in a place in your life where you can handle stress? Because it's going to get
Very
really
stressful.
ugly. Um, but if you've got, let's say, a safety net of a rich family, or if you have some cash lying around that you can support yourself, these are things that will mitigate that risk. I just think it's important that you evaluate all of them. I'm thinking of one person in particular, but I think it's true to a lot of people, that you can be intelligent but be a horrible business person.
Yeah.
And I've seen it, and I just hope that other people take this advice however you want.
Yeah, I second that. I'm a newlywed. I just got married. My wife's a dentist.
Congratulations again.
Thank you, sir. She's got her own practice, and when I met her, it was her first year of acquiring the practice. I mean, she had been working for a dentist for 6 years, and she found the perfect practice. She took over, and I was trying to give her the advice that I wanted to give myself
Hmm.
had I had started over. And you kind of described a lot of it. It's like they you can give them all the advice that you want. They have to be, number one, intelligent enough to interpret the advice, execute on the advice, make the mistakes for themselves, realize that, you know, this is a game where you're constantly getting beat up and you got to get up and do it all over again, and it's stressful, and it's tough work, man,
Yeah,
but it's very rewarding at the end of the day,
that's true.
I
Yeah,
mean. Yeah, go ahead.
one thing that a lot of the common themes I hear from entrepreneurs, you get control of your time, and that's so valuable to people like you and I will say, going back to your wife, there are certain businesses that are a little bit less risky. Buying an established practice with clients, with patients, is probably one of the best types of businesses to buy for someone who may not have that entrepreneur background. So evaluating every decision and scenario is important. So maybe you're not an entrepreneur, but I'm buying a business that's going to run itself.
The thing that I noticed about the difference between me and her and how we ran our businesses is I started my business with like $0, right? I had no money in my pocket. So every penny was super analyzed and scrutinized. And she went from working for someone to acquiring a business that generated over 7 figures. And so when people came knocking at her door that were like, "Hey, Dr. So and so, we're a company that provides you this service and this service." She's like, "Yeah, I'll take it. Sign me up. I'll
Yeah,
take it.
yeah,
Sign me
yeah.
up." And I told her, I was like, "What are you doing? You're giving all your money away to these other people, and you're going to be left with nothing." Well, well, I need this. I'm like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
I was like, you think you do, but you don't. Just don't
Right.
do it and watch what happens. You'll still survive. Trust me. And it took a lot of convincing from me. Like I kept telling her, and I think like finally the third or fourth time that I told her, she actually she took my advice and literally called me like that day for lunch. She's like, guess what? She's like, I told her no, I didn't want the service. And she turned around and told me, well, okay, no problem. It looks like your account already comes with half of this service left over. So you've got this to play with. She goes, I would have given her a check for 5 grand. It turns out I already had that
Right.
service available for free. And she just wasn't telling me. I was like, yeah, welcome to sales.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're trying to part you with your money. Stop
Right.
spending it, right?
Right. Right.
Tell everybody, say, oh, I've got a hiring freeze. Oh, we've got a budget freeze. We just come up with stuff. Tell people to go away. We're
Yeah.
not spending any more money.
Absolutely. My own personal business, you know that I own an insurance agency, and I got a little ambitious and I staffed up. And luckily, I'm 15 years now as an entrepreneur business owner. And I realized I got a little over my head. And within a few months, I realized my marketing goals and dream aspirations were probably not going to come through. But had I been just kind of lackadaisical, I would have carried that payroll for 6 to 12 months. And I realized, man, I need to cut this immediately. So you have to make these decisions quick. And here we are 6 months in hindsight, and I'm very glad that I didn't have 6 months of that payroll
Oh yeah,
to just, would have just gone to waste. It's just
yeah,
burning cash.
yeah,
And so I think as you get older and you get more experienced, these things become a little bit easier, but they still need to be analyzed. These decisions, if you want to grow, if you're not complacent, if you want to be ambitious and grow and scale your business, you're
yeah,
always going to have these failures. I consider what I just went through a failure, right? But it's a little bit of experience that is going to pay dividends for me in a decade. And that's the journey that I absolutely love about being a business owner, whether it's running a flight school, you know, selling investment advice or an insurance company. It's all a business at the end of the
yeah.
day, and I just love the nuances of business.
Definitely, definitely, man. It's what are we? I just hit 43. No, I'm coming up on 44 in a few months, and I don't want to hang my hat up someday and have regret. You
Mm,
know, I want to hang up my hat and say I did the best that I could do. And oh gosh, I wish I wish I would have tried that one thing. I wonder what would have happened with it because it's like at that point it's too late.
yeah, for
So
sure.
yeah, yeah, definitely. So yeah.
Um, Last question for you. So you've got this successful business. I saw the new purchase, by the way. What a beautiful car. What is that? The Rolls Royce Wraith? What is it called?
Calling in,
What is it called?
calling in.
Cullinan. You've
Yeah.
got a little condo that you drive around, which is beautiful. But what is the next step? Do you want to continue scaling OC Flight School? Do you want to exit? What are your plans over the next few years?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I'm currently a year into transitioning my business from providing a service to people in aviation to aviation is going to be the revenue I generate from aviation will represent probably I would say less than 10% of the total revenue of my of a company that I've formed last year.
Okay.
Um, I'm turning into more of a media company, I
Hmm.
would say, and I've spent about a year putting that together. And aviation is going to be, just one kind of aspect. I'll have the flight school and kind of let it run on autopilot with its it's going to have its own little thing going on here with very minimal input from me.
Hmm.
But I'm really transitioning more into a media company, and
Interesting.
I'm not going to be offering media to outside people. I'm going to be offering media to myself. So I've started up numerous businesses that offer services online, and I'm going to take everything in marketing that I've learned, which I do pretty good in marketing. Um, I'm going to apply marketing to every single one of those companies the way that I have applied marketing to my flight school. And in
Interesting.
and in doing so, I don't need any employees to run each one of those, you know, companies. I just need a marketing team,
Mm.
and it's all online, everything. And I firmly believe that in about 36 months, I will be generating about $100 million in revenue from this company a year.
Wow.
Those are my projections. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's funny. I remember we went to a Lamborghini event maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and you put out some, just like you're doing right now, some numbers that you were anticipating hitting. You hit those numbers, and so I'm reluctant to not believe you, but that is a grand number to be reaching for, my friend. So tell me a little bit about how this. I mean, if you can, tell me a little bit about how you're structuring this. I understand. I'm not quite sure I understand media company from a flight school.
Yeah. No, I mean, basically, I'm going to be offering, without revealing too much, I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
be offering services to people online,
Mm-hmm.
and those services are automated. So I don't need anybody to offer the service to the customer. So
I see.
I've built out a platform that provides a service to a customer that's automated with very, very little input from a human being. I've purchased long ago, before there was a big announcement with Nvidia and AI. I bought AI I bought licensing rights to AI. I created an avatar of myself. I spent a lot of money on AI, and
Mm-hmm.
I've been in the workshop generating myself and AI avatars and images, and um, I've duplicated myself. I've cloned myself into
Mm.
very different aspects, into different businesses, and I was able to do that because of the technology.
Mm.
And so these businesses are in the midst of being built out. They're very on the very tail ends, and I've already tested them out, and I know they work. I've already proved the concept, and once they're built, which I think we're going live this upcoming Friday with the first one. Um,
Super exciting.
yeah, I'll definitely like show you later on.
Mm-hmm.
We'll do a follow up. The first one comes on live Friday, and I am basically using my marketing skills to push all these businesses forward. And I don't need a lot of people involved with it. It's simply just marketing at that point.
Are you selling a marketing service?
No,
It's not a marketing service.
see,
Okay.
that's so most people make the mistake of, and I don't want to say entrepreneur, every entrepreneur makes their bread and butter in some way. I told my wife and I told my mom, I said, you know, the skill set that I've acquired in the last 8 years or 9 years of running my business in marketing, the skill set of marketing, I could create a marketing company and sell marketing services to other companies. And I could probably generate $10 million a year in sales easily over maybe the course of like 3 years to 4 years. I could scale up and offer. I go, that's a waste of my time.
Mm.
I go, I don't want to do that because then I got to hire a workforce and talk to these
Mm.
people and have salespeople and watch over the salespeople and this and that. I just took a big leap forward
Mm.
and got rid of all those people, and I built a platform online that that sells to people a service that they genuinely need. It's not like something they don't need. It's
Sure.
something they actually need, but what I'm going to do is promote it from within. I'm going to promote it using my media company. And so I'm
Interesting.
currently I've got one, two, three, four. I've got five of these companies that are complete, very close to completion, maybe in the next 2 to 3 weeks. I've been working on them for a year now. I don't know
Hmm.
if you've been watching my social media, but sometimes I'll be in a studio and
Yeah.
I've got AI going on in the background. After these are done, I anticipate adding about 10 platforms per year to the service. Um, and I anticipate each here's something really good that I'll give you a little bit of comment of what I really liked I took away from
Hmm.
someone
Okay.
recently. Don't try to make one company, don't try to make a company make $100 million a year.
Okay.
Try to get try to get 100 companies to make $1 million a year. So, because it's really easy to make $1 million. Once you make it, you
Hmm.
figure out the formula and it's easy to gross $1 million a year in a company,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So if you get 100 companies that make $1 million a year, then it's simply like, well, how do you manage 100 companies? You're not managing a company. What I'm doing is a platform online and it's all automated.
Hmm.
So I don't need employees. I don't have staff. All I need is my marketing company to push sales. And
Hmm.
I've already created those companies. I've created the platform. I've created the service, and everything's automated. Everything's automated.
Interesting.
So I anticipate every single one of these. It's difficult to tell you without
Yeah.
releasing information. That's why it's hard for me to explain to you. Every single one of these platforms that I've created will do over $1 million a year in business. And so far, I've got 5 of them done.
Hmm.
They were proof of concepts, and I know they work. And now I'm basically just going to be, you know, in the business of creating more and more platforms. And I'm positioned to add about 10 per year.
Wow.
So it'll be interesting to see. And remember what I said in the beginning of our conversation, you throw 10 darts, one will land.
Yeah.
So if it lands, then it lands. And if it doesn't, then I'm picking up and I'm moving on and I still do pretty good in flight
Yeah.
school business and I'll try again.
I love it. That's the life of an entrepreneur, right?
That's right.
I love it, man. Beautiful. Well, it's been a pleasure, man. I really appreciate your insight. You're obviously very good at what you do. Anyone who's looking for flight school, OC Flight School, you got my man Omar. He's giving away free lessons, apparently, if you're
Oh
listening.
yeah, everyone just come on in, free stuff, everyone.
I'm just messing with you, man. It's been a pleasure, man. Next time I'm in Orange County, I'll definitely stop by. We need to catch up. It's been too long, but I appreciate your time, man. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thanks, Parsa.